All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It is 1 o'clock. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, whether it's afternoon or morning your time. We'll be recording this, so anyone who comes in late will certainly be able to have access to everything. But thank you very much for joining us in today's event on how to make sure your tuition assistance program is your most powerful benefit. My name is Dale Leatherwood. I am the co-founder and president of Clear Degree. Just a little bit about my background. I've been in the training and higher education space, specifically in the area of adult education and online learning and digital learning for over 25 years now. In 2017, I was co-founder of Clear Degree, and we work with employees and employers to help their employees find the perfect online degree and companies to maximize the return on investment of their tuition assistance program. So that is the topic we're going to be covering today. So today's agenda, what are we going to be talking about specifically? Well, number one, we're going to be covering what tuition assistance programs are looking like on average, so that you can kind of compare yourself to those if you have one or are looking to create one, and a few of the stats around tuition assistance. We're going to talk about some of the most common mistakes that we see in tuition assistance programs, the ones that are not as utilized or as effective. We're going to make sure that as a company, you're able to align what you're trying to achieve, your goals, with the process within your program, the specific way individuals use your program or become a part of your tuition assistance process. We're going to talk about how to make sure you're helping to guide students and individual employees towards their educational goals and putting the assistance in tuition assistance. From a macro perspective, we're going to be talking about the corporate strategy and is that aligned with the education outcomes for your tuition assistance programs. And then lastly, we're going to be talking about how to cover the gap between what you're doing financially to assist your employees with going to school and how much a degree actually costs. And beyond that, we'll talk about specific recommendations in summary and then Q&A. So there'll be plenty of time for Q&A. If you have questions, feel free to think about those, note those down. Towards the end, we'll open the floor for questions and stay as long as you'd like. So let's talk about the landscape of tuition assistance. A few very general stats. The fact is, educational assistance as a whole, that could be any type of educational assistance, whether it's in-house training, individual online classes, as well as tuition assistance. The vast majority, pretty much everybody has something in place. And even if you don't have a tuition assistance program, you know, even if it's in-house training, you have some sort of educational assistance within your organization. The majority are offering tuition assistance at some level. That could be for a few $100 to cover books. It could be a 100% of a college education, but most companies are offering tuition assistance, and most likely they're going to be spending around the IRS limit, around $5,200. So the most common dollar amount is between $5,000 to $6,000, and with the IRS limit, that makes sense. A slight majority have that payback penalty where employees have to stay on board for a certain amount of time, in this case 1 year, or they have to pay back what they've received from the company to cover the tuition. And that's just to make sure that they're getting something out of their expenditure. All that being said, and probably the biggest issue that we see is that usage rates are very, very low. Companies are offering the program, but the usage rates, very small amounts are using it on a regular basis, mid to low single digits. And there are a lot of reasons why that is. We'll touch on that today. But as we move forward, we're going to talk about the three general types of tuition assistance programs. The first one is going to be your informal program. Basically, certain employees at certain times, for certain reasons, with certain qualifications, may have access to a program that's not formalized. You may help someone out here and there, but it's definitely a one-off thing. And that could be for small companies or large companies. The second major type There is a program, but it's almost don't ask, don't tell. Essentially, the way the program is utilized, it's a bullet item for recruiting, but organizations either don't have the budget set aside for it or the resources to manage it in order to make it popular. The fear is if we tell everybody about it and really encourage the use, we're going to quickly spend a ton of money, or it'll get so popular, but we don't have individuals assigned to help manage people through the process. And human resources isn't necessarily an expert in education. So it's formal, but hidden. Now that is notwithstanding the strong return on investment that organizations can achieve through tuition assistance. And that leads me to the third type of program, where companies are using it as a core part of reaching various goals within the human resource strategy, whether that be recruiting, retention, of course, but also the upskilling and planning for an unknown future. I think all of us 20, 30 years ago might have had some sense of the technology or the overall sense of business that is happening today. I would defy anyone to predict where your business will be in the year 2040. It'll be very difficult. The only way to really drive into an unknown future is to upskill the employees you have, which will save you money, give them the skills and ability to take you in any direction your organization may go. And the employees that work for companies where tuition assistance is part of their strategy, they're much better able to do that. So let's talk about some of the issues that we see that make tuition assistance a program that isn't used as often as it probably should be. Common problems and mistakes with tuition assistance. Number one, as I mentioned earlier, it's on the list of benefits, but that's about it. Sometimes the don't ask, don't tell because of, as I said, budget or management concerns. But more often, it's a benefit that they think people need to see in order to be attracted to an organization, along with pet insurance and other things. Number two, when tuition assistance is utilized, the focus is on the starting point. It's about dotting the I's and crossing the T's of the intake, making sure you're qualified and that you filled out the right forms, as opposed to the outcomes you want to achieve individually, tactically, and strategically. And so when it's only about paperwork, it's not nearly as exciting or interesting or useful for employees. Thirdly, organizations are limiting the options where individuals can utilize those benefits. It might be a certain small set of schools, a certain specific set of programs, only degrees or only classes or only certificates. And the fact is there are tens of thousands of degrees out there, whether they be online or on ground. There's thousands more certificates and training programs available utilizing technology. And when you limit the options, you've left open opportunities that individuals can utilize, and you're kind of forcing a square peg into a round hole. Sometimes the program is too broad or too narrow, but by that I mean either the program is one size fits all, everybody kind of goes and does the same thing, or else they do nothing, or the qualification requirements are way too extensive, and you've got to be a very specific type of employee to even utilize the tool, the resource, and that program therefore will not be utilized by anyone other than that specific type of employee. And then lastly, the program is on an island. There's no connection or measurement of the impact on strategy or even retention and recruiting, and so it's simply seen as dollars out the door. We spent X number of thousands of dollars on tuition assistance, but there's no sense of what you got back in return, and therefore the budget may even disappear the next year. If it's not connected, there's really no reason to do it. When we talk about how to avoid those mistakes, there are a couple of main goals you want to focus on. Are students successfully completing their education, particularly degrees? In other words, are you wasting your time and money? And are they applying what they're learning to their daily role and to their next role in the organization. That's a very important thing to consider. If they're going to school and finishing their degree or getting an advanced degree all the way up to a PhD or even getting a certification or training, are they going to school on Monday, learning something on Tuesday, discussing it on Wednesday, and applying it to your organization on Thursday? That's how it can work. They can bring those day-to-day benefits from the educational environment into the organization. And that's what you need to expect. Also, are they able to apply what they know to help drive your organization forward in their next role? If they're a call center manager and they're finishing their degree, does that set them up to be a director or get involved in other aspects of the organization? So think about those two major measurement ways to align processes within your tuition assistance program and your goals. And let's talk about a couple of specific tactics that can also align the process and goal. Let's talk about how you pay for a program. In most programs, the compensation model is going to be tied to an equal dollar amount throughout the program. So in this example, $1,200 a year for every year in school. So over a 4-year period, that's $4,800. It's simple, it's easy, certainly makes sense. And if it's, what's the time frame? If it's certification, perhaps that's a smaller amount of time, but we'll use this as an example. What if you looked at it a different way? Instead of that flat dollar amount each year of the program, what if you looked at a stair-stacked approach? That stair-stacked approach would be the same overall dollar amount, $4,800, but it would be paid in a growing amount year over year. What that allows you to do is spend less money in the riskier part of an educational process when they begin the program. And if it's a degree, that's when the vast majority of drops happen, and pay more towards the end as they approach the completion of the degree. In other words, you're providing them the proper incentive to pull them through their degree program and to meet you halfway with the responsibility towards the end. Why do we do that? Well, because we want to incent what we expect. We don't want to pay people just to go to school. We want to pay people to graduate and apply what they've learned to the organization and bring your organization benefit. And by incenting in this way, you may be able to provide better outcomes and ensure you're spending your money as effectively as possible. Another way you can align processes with the outcomes is to use what we call the 3 Ps. When someone wants to utilize tuition assistance, it often is fill out this form and submit your grades every semester and we'll reimburse you. In our process at Clear Degree, when we interview an employee, we want to really understand what they're all about so that we could do the research on degree programs that are fit. We use what's known as the 3 Ps. We want to understand their profile, and that's a professional, personal, and academic profile around who they are, what they want to achieve, and where they're coming from. We want to understand their preparation. Are they academically, financially, and personally prepared to go back to school? And in our case, we also want to understand, because we deal with online programs, are they prepared for that format? Sometimes the best outcome is that they're not ready to go to school and they recognize that. So neither one of you wasted your time and money. And then thirdly, the preferences. What is important to them around different features and benefits of a program? How important is brand? How important is price point? How important is the specificity of a degree? Geography, et cetera, et cetera. Understanding the 3 Ps and creating at least a overall sense of profile for that individual is going to require them then to put more thought into why they want to go back to school, how they're going to use their degree, how it's going to benefit you as an organization, and do they understand and know what they're getting into. So those processes align, those features included in your process is going to really help you align the goals of what you want to achieve with a TAP program and how you go about implementing it. So let's talk about some of the responsibilities that organizations have to ensure success. And we're going to talk about the importance of guidance. Again, if you're just saying, hey, fill out this form and good luck, you may be either helping students make big mistakes or wasting everyone's time and money. I'm going to give you a couple of very specific examples. So this beautiful campus, if you don't know, is the University of Southern California. And with a small bribe of about $150,000, your child too can get into USC. But there are a lot of adult students who attend USC, and they have an extensive online set of online programs that they produce with a partner. One of their programs is a Master's of Social Work. And while I know we would all agree that social work is an incredibly important vocation with huge value to communities and individuals throughout the country, at the same time, social workers don't make a lot of money. You don't get into it to make a lot of money. So to get a Master's of Social Work, it's going to improve how you do your job, but it's not necessarily going to improve to a dramatic extent how much money you make doing that job. The Master's of Social Work at University of Southern California online is for a traditional part-time student, which most working professionals would be, is almost $116,000. Now, to give you a sense of how much that cost compares to other programs, look at this list of brands. Each of these institutions also offer an online Masters of Social Work. Brands that we all recognize. The three largest schools in the country are listed here: Arizona State, UCF, and Ohio State. And you got Temple, Alabama, Colorado State, Rutgers. Schools around the country, very well known. And this is a fraction of the schools that offer a program like this. For the same price that you would spend at the University of Southern California, you can get a degree at any one of these schools in social work online, and you can get a Tesla on top of it to splurge. That combined price would be less than the degree at USC. For half of those schools, you can get a degree, you can get a Tesla, and you can get another degree, a second degree for your buddy. In other words, the USC cost is over twice the amount plus some of Florida State, Alabama, LSU, UCF, and others. For someone who's getting a degree in social work, the huge, well-known, very attractive brand of USC, by comparison, creates an opportunity to potentially waste a lot of money. Let's look at one other example. EdSmart. That is a website that provides information and rankings on online colleges. And they recently, in July of this year, revealed their best online colleges and universities for 2019 and 2020. Their number one ranked institution, the University of Michigan. Incredible school with an incredible brand, score of 100. That is, in their opinion, the number one online college in the United States for this year and this coming year. What's interesting about that is University of Michigan has a grand total of 3 online degrees. What's interesting about that is 3 as compared to some schools that have 30 or more. It's a little unusual to have University of Michigan ranked number 1, but hey, it's a very strong brand. However, one additional interesting note, the University of Michigan online programs didn't begin until fall of this year. So to recap here, the number 1 ranked online college per EdSmart has 0 students, much less graduates. What do I mean by all this? These examples at Michigan and USC is not to knock on Michigan and USC, but the main message there when it comes to guidance for your employees, brands and rankings, among other things, are bull. What's important is understanding a degree is important relative to that person. What's important to each individual is different. And if you and they are depending on what are some well-known schools, that sounds good, or what are some good rankings, that sounds good, they can make a lot of mistakes. In addition, there are a lot of websites where individuals who go to those websites literally can't find out how much it costs. It's incredibly difficult. Either it's hidden or you have to fill out a form in order to get information and you end up making a phone call. Once that happens, you can get sucked into a marketing and sales environment that's going to drive them towards enrolling into a degree program they don't have all the information of. So guidance is incredibly important in that way. Let's talk a little bit more about thinking outside the box when it comes to guidance and degree programs themselves. So when we want to align education with the strategy of our organization, it's important to think about the totality of educational opportunities available. Another great example, Publix is a grocery store here in Florida and throughout the Southeast that's incredibly well known for its customer service. Think of it as the Nordstrom's of grocery stores. Imagine you're a manager at Publix and one of your employees says they want to be a manager as well. That's their long-term goal. And they want to use tuition assistance as part of their journey. So using the 3 Ps, they aren't sure what degree, but figure they'll just get a degree in business, a bachelor's degree in business, which is great. There are courses in management, marketing, operations, business communications, all the standard things that we all know business people need to learn. But at the same time, it's somewhat generic. While this has value to Publix, it may not have as much value as a degree like a BS in consumer sciences with a concentration in consumer affairs. This is a real degree offered online. And if you think about a customer service focused organization relative to these courses, imagine the impact. So you've got classes like Intro to Consumer Economics, Consumer Marketing Management, Customer Service Management, Consumer Conflict Resolution, Psychology of Money, Emotional Intelligence, Consumer Management, Human Capital. Imagine an employee going through this program and the specific benefit it could bring to the strategy that is specific to the organization as a whole. And the fact is, it takes an understanding of the totality of degree programs out there to be able to attach an educational outcome to a corporate strategy today or tomorrow or 10 years from now. And that type of expertise can make your tuition assistance program 10 times more valuable, if not more. All right. When we think about why this is such a big deal, is because more than ever, there are options that provide a perfect degree or educational outcome for just about anyone, whether you're talking about the tens of thousands of online degrees, all the local degree offerings, stackable credentials and badges, certifications, and so forth. Thinking outside the box is going to be crucial to having an effective tuition assistance program. Last major section here, let's talk about bridging the gap. And by that, what we mean is, for most organizations, if they're spending around $5,000 to $6,000 on tuition assistance per year for an employee, there's often a big difference between that dollar amount and what a degree actually costs. And putting the assistance in tuition assistance means giving your employees resources to help them bridge that gap. Thinking about adult students, and we've all been in classes like this, or a lot of us have rather, large auditorium classes in subjects like history or biology, English literature, etc. I wish the school I was at had laptops for every student, but that's a different presentation. For an adult employee, this is not necessarily the ideal environment, right? When an adult is looking to take a class, particularly a gen ed, they don't necessarily want to spend the time and money on that experience relative to the courses that are more specific to their degree goals and their career outcomes. Your ability to utilize things like CLEP, competency-based education, alternative credits, credit for the training you've offered within your organization, flat tuition models, prior learning assessment, which allows individuals to show that they have knowledge that may count for credit within an institution. All of these things can save substantial time and dollars on the path to a degree by reducing the impact of the gen eds that are required for pretty much any degree program. And even at the level of a master's degree, when you talk about things like tactical credit transfer, even most master's degrees will accept transfer credit. The ability to bring in lower cost credit from institutions into a master's degree can save a significant amount of dollars, which may mean the difference between a good degree and a great degree in terms of affordability. How does that play out in real life? So imagine two employees at Publix, the organization we talked about earlier, and they're both interested in that BS in consumer sciences, the bachelor's degree in consumer sciences that we spoke to. You've got Hair Dad Harry on the left and Smiling Anna on the right. They're both using going to try to get that degree. That's 120 total credit hours. The degree costs $385 per credit hour. It's 40 courses, and they're both going to utilize $15,000 from the company's tuition assistance program. They're bringing transfer credits and others to the table. So Harry is bringing in a standard 6 transfer credits from previous education. He's going to take 10 courses a year because he filled out a form. Luckily, he thought to have his transfer credit evaluated, so he got those 2 courses, 6 credits, and he's going to take 10 courses a year. Anne, however, is going to do, she also has 6 transfer credits from her previous transcript, but she's going to take 15 credits worth of CLEP tests, which could be as few as 4 tests. She's going to do a portfolio assessment to test out of 2 classes. And she's also going to take 10 courses a year. So not a huge amount of additional effort, certainly some additional effort, but not a massive amount of additional effort. And more importantly, not anything unusual. So what does that mean in terms of a bottom line impact? Harry is going to spend a little over $30,000. It's going to take him 4 years to get the degree. Anna is going to spend $10,000 less for that same degree, and it's going to take her almost a year less to complete the degree. When you think about that in terms of loans, if they both were taking these dollar amounts and converting them into student loans through the federal student loan program, that's over $100 a month difference. Now, thinking about it in terms of your organization, what kind of loyalty would you get from Anna when she understands that you helped her not only get her degree, but get it in a way that's saving her time and saving her real substantial dollars overall and in each and every month? The amount of loyalty, appreciation, she's going to tell all her friends how great an employer you are, and ultimately you're going to have an asset that's going to bring value to your organization, likely for many years to come. So let's wrap this up by talking about a few specific recommendations based on the content that we've covered today. Number 1, put as much thought into the process of applying for tuition assistance as is practical. You obviously don't want them to go on a 500 question form, but at the very least, thinking about the 3 Ps that we discussed, the profile, the preparation, and the preferences. Sometimes the best result is to decide now is not the right time to go to school, which is frankly a really good thing because it's not going to cost you unnecessary dollars, but put thought into the application process. Number 2, it's easy to have a set roster of schools or even degrees that you work with, whether directly or through a partner, but you're much better off by not limiting the choices. There are just too many great options, too many great resources out there to work with a handful of programs, regardless of how easy it is or how cheap it may be. Number 3, This is a specific recommendation around one of the ways you can measure tuition assistance. Certainly you want to measure the payback and retention and productivity. Those are all great things and other things as well. But one of the ways that may sound a little unusual is measuring your tuition assistance program as a percentage of the total cost of the individual employee's degree. In other words, what is the true impact of your tuition assistance program on the ability of someone to go back to school and get their degree? And how is that impacting your organization? If you are, by not spending $1 more for tuition assistance, helping an employee cover a larger percentage of their tuition because you've helped them with tuition planning, degree planning, alternative credits, and the like, if you're spending the same amount of money but having a larger overall financial impact, that's going to mean a bigger impact on what you want to get out of the relationship with that employee. They're going to be a much happier employee based on how you've helped them. Communicating successes. Incredibly important when you are working with employees and you've helped individuals achieve training or degree to share those stories. Why? Because people respond to the success of their peers. It's either, wow, if Jim can do it, I sure as heck can do it. Or if Jim can do it, why shouldn't I do it? The best way to get more involvement is to show the impact to corporate so they continue to fund tuition assistance, and showing how it's impacted individual careers and the productivity of the company. And the fact is, you've got people who will tell you, I never would have done this without you. And that's certainly much better than 100 Glassdoor reviews. And then lastly, this is not a fire and forget type of program. Education, skills, and corporate strategies are constantly changing. Review what you have at least yearly to make sure that everything is aligned. Talk to the individuals who are going through the program. Ask them if they could do anything different, what would they do? Talk to folks who should be using the program, but for whatever reason have not. Ask them simply, why haven't you done it yet? Could simply be procrastination. But continue to adjust and tweak what you're doing. That is the presentation as of today. We'll get into Q&A, but first, I'm not going to do any kind of marketing spiel here, but if you have any questions on Clear Degree, our process, as I mentioned earlier, we help individual employees of organizations find the perfect degree, their perfect degree program. If they're interested in an online degree, we can help employers maximize the productivity of their tuition assistance program by providing guidance and saving them time and money on finding the perfect online degree. I'm going to open the floor to questions. If you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A button on your panel, or email me at dale@cleardegree.com, and I'd be incredibly happy to respond to you personally. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to leave the Q&A open, but thanks everyone for joining us today, and the recording will be available for all the attendees very soon. We'll get the link out to you, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Okay, I've responded to a couple of questions via chat. One question that came out was, how much should you spend on tuition assistance? Well, obviously the IRS limit is around $5,200, but it really comes down to what the impact you think will be from an ROI perspective. We have clients that spend anywhere from $800 up to 100% of tuition. I will tell you, the answer is not having a program that is aligned with the dollar amount. In other words, if you spend $800, that doesn't mean you shouldn't care as much as if you spend $18,000. I would say it makes sense to start at the lower end. Certainly $5,200 makes a lot of sense, and then go up from there as you evaluate the usage. But there is no doubt, if you are measuring the productivity, that's the only way to answer the question is, are you getting a multiple, 1.5 times, 2 times, 3 times of the impact over time of what you spent on the degree? And how much does it cost to recruit and retain employees as compared to what that rate is for students or individuals who go through tuition assistance? Great question. Got another question. Someone asked, and again, not to get too much in the marketing spiel, someone asked about our services and how we help employees find degrees. Our focus is on online programs. Obviously, if someone is interested in an on-ground program, there's only a handful of options locally, so they can do their own research. We help individuals that are looking to finish a degree or get their advanced degree, master's or PhD, via an online program. And we do that by utilizing what I mentioned earlier, the 3 Ps, and we have an extensive Q&A that we go through. But our program has really 2 or 3 main components. What we do is provide an initial list of 15 to 20 programs that fit. We discuss those with the client. They create a short list of 4 to 6. We then interview the schools and ask a few dozen questions about the curriculum, the program, the faculty, the student experience, etc. If it's an undergrad, we do a degree plan that helps us understand what their credits look like so far, how they compare to the courses in the degree, what alternative credits exist, things like CLEP and others, and ultimately how can they lower their cost and time in school. And we then review the entirety of those details on the short list and the degree plan with the individual client. What that's designed to do is provide an independent, unbiased representation of what degree programs are a fit for them individually, to give them leverage and information to make a great choice, and to shortcut the time and effort involved to make a wonderful decision. Most people don't know what they don't know when it comes to online degrees or degrees in general, and we act as that education concierge to make it much easier. So thanks for that question. It gave me an excuse to talk about what we do. We'll take one more question if anyone has any. Okay, well, like I said, if you have additional questions, absolutely feel free to email me, dale@cleardegree.com. I thank you very much for your time and attention. We'll get the recording out to you as soon as possible. Thank you.